Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be putting passengers on trains. We're going to be creating our own stations for these trains to ride through. Today we're looking at a two-player game called Trambahn. This is from Lookout Games. It's a two-player game only, brought to us through Mayfair Games in the US. It's about a 30-minute game, card game. A lot of people have said this is similar to Lost Cities, which is one of my favorites. Had to check this one out. Does it hold up? Let's take a look. In Trambahn, you're going to be putting passengers into different terminal stations. You'll be buying different trains to then link up to the stations that you're playing. Let's talk about how our turn works. At the beginning of the game, you're going to get some money. These are worth $1,000, and you'll get a different amount depending on if you're first or second player. You'll also get 6 cards that are kept secret, but I'm putting them down the table so you can see them. And these are the different lines or colors that are in the game. There's green, blue, red, and yellow, and they have different values and amounts on them. Now on your turn, the first thing you have to do is place at least one passenger card. Now all the cards in the game can be one of 3 things. They're either money on one side, or that you can place them as this color station, or you can use them as passengers. So in this case, I'm going to play, you have to play at least one card, but you could play 2 if you want, but they have to be the same color. Here I'm using this as a passenger. This is basically linking up the blue passengers to the blue passengers. Now something special happens when 4 cards of this come out. I'll talk about that in a moment, but you can place 1 or 2 cards of the same color. That's the first thing, and it's mandatory. Then if you want, optionally, you can place as many cards down as stations in front of you. With these rules, they've got to be the same color on top of each other, and the numbers always have to go in ascending order. So I put a 2 and then a 4. Notice I skipped a 3. You can skip as many numbers, but you got to go in ascending order. Then, if I want to, I can optionally throw out any of the cards that I don't want and throw them in my money pile. But I'm going to hold these on right now because I start with a bunch of money. Now anytime I lay a new train, I have to purchase a train to attach to this. Otherwise these get thrown away and they're no good. They're just money for me. So what I could do is I could pay 5 of my money, because the 3 trains that come out at the beginning of the game are all worth $5. So I would spend $5, I would pull one of these trains, a new one would come out for the next player during the next round, and I would just play this train right on the top of this like that. So now this is a valid route, and yeah, it's going there. And it'll be the next player's turn. So when it's my turn again, these are my cards. Now you always draw back up to 6 at the end of your turn. So I'll have 6 to start every turn. I place 1 card there, which is mandatory, and then optionally I will put 2 more cards on the same line. 2, 4, 5, 6. We're doing pretty good here. And these ones, maybe I just throw them away and get money. So I throw these away for 3, and then I would essentially draw back 6 new cards. And this would be my hand for my next turn. It'd be the next player's turn, then it'll come back to me. Ooh, this is good. This is my next hand, and so I'm going to use this as my passenger card. And I'm going to place this right here. Now, these passenger cards, I told you earlier there's a big thing about 4. Let's just say that before I started this round, there were 3 of them there. And when I placed my red card, that makes the 4th one. Immediately we stop, these get discarded and emptied, and this scores. Now this means this color scores everywhere. If I had multiple of these, they'd score. If my opponent has some, they'd score. Now, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4 times 2. That'd be 8 points. So let's say I got 8, and let's say my opponent didn't have red yet. So it'd be 8-0. We're going to be scoring up to 10 rounds in a game. Now, as these trains start to get bought up, they'll start to be $10 a piece. And those would be a multiplier of 3, where the 5s are multipliers of 2. And after the 10s run out, towards the end they're $15 trains, but they're a multiplier of 4, so things ratchet up towards the end of the game. So that scored me, but I still can play because the scoring, the passengers was mandatory. But let's say I go 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once a 10 is laid down, this track is closed. You cannot alter it anymore. And let's say I spend $5 to attach a train to it, and that's really good because now if this one scores, if the blue one scores, I would get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times 2 is 20 points. So I'm really trying to score blue and red at this point. Now there's one cool thing you can do is there's some cards that are wild. They're basically conductor cards, and they can be anything. They can be used anywhere on your board here, or they can be used as a passenger card when you're scoring for any color. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards here. And let's assume that I could play this here. Now, the conductors can be played anywhere and they're not a number. So even though I played that there, I can still play the 10. But let's say I played a second one right here. Now here we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. As soon as you score 8 cards, you automatically get an extra tour, which is essentially is an extra scoring for this one line. So it's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 2. I would get 16 here, and you can only do this once per line during the game. But if I had multiple different lines, I could do it on those, but it's basically 16 extra points. Now you would continue doing this until there's 10 scorings. Once the 10 scoring, the game's over and you add it up to see who won. Now one more thing too is as you're trying to buy some of the more expensive trains towards the end, the draw deck is going to get emptied. As soon as the draw deck gets emptied, because you're filling up your hand every round, everybody has to throw out half of their money like that out of the game. So there's that weird mechanic there where you get rid of half of your money when the draw deck runs out, so it makes you be super aggressive towards the end to try to get things bought. Anyway, you do that until you have 10 separate scorings, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. Now when I heard this game was 2 players from Lookout, wow, it immediately made me think of Patchwork, right? Awesome 2-player game, one of the best 2-player games I have, great game last year. So anything they touch that's 2 players, I'm gonna grab. Then I heard it was like Lost Cities a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, that's one of my favorite games. Gotta check this one out. So I was really excited about this one. And the first few plays, I was quite intrigued. I'm like, huh. First of all, I love it when you have cards that can do multiple things. This is, you got cash that you can spend, you've got passengers that you can make them, or you can, put them down as stations. And I already liked that right at the beginning. And so at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is really weird. I think there's more depth here, than what meets the eye. So play it again, again, again. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You see different strategies, you're working it out. And it started to get deeper and deeper with every play. But after about 5 or 6 plays, this weird thing happened where it's like, I didn't know if I liked the game or not. I continued to play it over and over. And then at that point, it was like this arc where every time I played after that, it got worse. And here's why. The most fundamental problem I have with this game is it's very lucky. Typically what's going to happen is you're going to have an opening hand and you're going to rush to get a couple of lines built quickly, and that may or may not be different lines from your opponent. If you start going after, like if you just happen to both go after the first 2 lines of the same color right off the bat because you've been drawing something good, and that other person just really takes over those lines, it's really hard to pivot in this game. There was a handful of games that we played that halfway through that person knew they were dead. You can't pivot, you can't recover fast enough because that person's just going to start wailing out, drawing cards, and scoring those things before you have time to either pivot and go for a different color or try to really cut the difference up. And it's interesting because even if you go after those colors that they're already killing you and that you started and already built, it's like all you're doing is minusing the amount of points they're getting more than you. But then if you try to pivot and go for the other ones, you never seem to have enough time left. And then as it gets towards the end of the game, you have those 10 and 15 cards, and they're really hard to afford the 15s, especially when you get the new draw deck, you got to throw out half your cards. That mechanic made me really dislike this game because you're behind, you're trying to get a new color that he doesn't have, you get the 15, and you get close, but you got to throw out half your cards to start over again. Hated that mechanic. The other thing too is what we found is once you kind of get settled, you're about halfway through the game, maybe just before half, you got your lines that you're going after, he's got their lines he's going after. It just really became a luck fest where you're just drawing the cards to score the one you want, you're throwing everything else into money, and you're just trying to drop as many of those cards and score it as fast as you can. And the second half of the games were very boring to me, over and over again. So I'm really disappointed in this. I wanted to love this game. Gosh, when I heard it was about Lost Cities, there was a game that came out earlier this year that was tacked as somewhat like Lost Cities, and that game was amazing, and that was Arboretum. So I got really excited about this, and at first I was intrigued, but the more and more I played it, the more and more holes I started to see and issues I have with the game mechanically. Overall, gosh, it just didn't do it for me. So very disappointed. I really wanted to like this game, but just those things that I said just were too much to overcome for this game and did not like it in the end. That's Trambahn.